Hey there, my name is Przemek, and this is the triple review of 3 most recent offerings from Winterlight label. And these are Alone in the Hollow Garden and Nam-Khar collaboration Antariksha, the album by Gydja, beats me, what's the title? I won't dare to pronounce it. And Talst Celestial Displacement. And let's start chronologically with Antariksha, out in November 2023. If you follow Santa Sangre, you know that both projects of this Romanian-German collaboration are frequent. Sorry, cats. Are frequent hosts in Santa Sangre, and they both today are kind of hot names in on the modern ritual dark ambient micro scene. It's not their first collaboration. In 2019 they had an album called Gydja on Zazen Sounds, and they also did some tracks together on Two Splits album with Shibalba. It's possible that I forgot about their other joint works, as both Alone in the Hollow Garden and Nam-Khar are quite prolific projects. The cover slightly differs from the standard dark landscapes that we see on Winterlight releases. But on the other hand, these sigils are quite characteristic for the graphic designs on the albums of both projects. The inside is also quite aesthetic. This is how it looks like inside. And Antariksha in Sanskrit means space or outer space, and the titles refer partly to the elements and partly to celestial bodies. At least that's what I'm guessing after a quick check on the internet, since Sanskrit is not a language I could say I know anything about. And I would say that these projects are stylistically both close and distant from each other. Ritual dark ambient paradox. Let me tell you what I mean by this. Both projects share an atmosphere of Eastern mystery, the impression of participating in an esoteric ritual somewhere in Asia. You can easily listen to the albums of both projects one after another without disturbing the mentioned atmosphere. However, while Nam-Khar is calmer and more subtle, and they built their compositions based on synthetic sounds, sometimes supported by instruments such as singing bowls, etc. Alone in the Hollow Garden uses a wider spectrum of colors, I would say, a wider palette of live instruments, sometimes combining his ritual dark ambient with other sounds like cosmic music, like on the one of the recent albums, which title I forgot. But when Dan and Michael record something together, the key is to find that special key. The key is to find the key. Yeah, you know what I mean. That common ground, you know, as if they met in the middle of the road and brought out the best in what they do by combining it into one special thing. And since they are both good at what they do, they managed to reach a satisfying effect on Antariksha. It's not as rich as Alone in the Hollow Garden previous work, but it's also not as dark and raw as, for example, Secret Essence, Nam-Khar's previous album for Winterlight. The basis is still the creeping eeriness generated by Nam-Khar, while Alone in the Hollow Garden covers it with a wide spectrum of rhythms, usually at medium tempos, sometimes a bit faster, sometimes a bit slower, but generated using live instruments characteristic for the Far Eastern tradition, like tanpura, Arabic scale flute, bongos, shakers, sistrum, flortom, tambourine, gongs, bells, rolmo cymbals, metal percussion, self-made piezo percussion, both metal devices, amplified strings, and analog synthesizers. But well, not all of them are specific for Asian culture, but you get the idea. What I see while listening to this music, I see a hill covered in fog and a Tibetan temple in the distance. In the background, there are mountains reaching to the sky and the wind whipping your face. But you persistently walk to this temple so that maybe the monks will give you shelter. It's a place completely cut off from civilization, self-sufficient, where people live in harmony with nature, but in total isolation from the rest of the world. And despite the rather dark sound of this album, perhaps you will find a refuge there. Perhaps you will find inner peace and you will not want to come back. Antariksha, another successful album in the portfolio of both artists. This album gives me this type of impressions. The next one is Gydja with the title. This is the title. I won't read it, sorry. As you can see, on the contrary to aesthetic design of Antariksha, here we have some impressive, colorful imagery showing some mysterious landscapes. Rivers, streams, night sky, all drawn in fantastic colors. I would say it's somehow perhaps Iceland is inspired works, of course properly processed in terms of colors and the general fantastic feeling, so it suits the album's idea, but what I see here are the trees, you know, and last year I was in Iceland and basically there are no trees. I mean, not that there is no single tree on the whole island, obviously, but seeing a tree there is quite a rare view. But the fact is that this the kind of interpretation of lands appearing in a Norse mythology, as Gydja music has always been connected to this particular concept. To be more specific, the cover and the whole concept of the album refers to Elivagar, the great 11-fold river whose venomous waters flowed into the void in that moment of cosmological nascency and would continue to make their way through the underworld after the establishment of the universe. The artwork is by Abi Hellasdottir, who is also the musician behind Gydja. Coming from New Zealand, but having strong connections with Northern Europe, I guess. This album is a follow-up to Ar Var Alda, also released by Winterlight in 2021. I review it in written Santa Sangre blog, and yeah, this title Ar Var Alda, probably I'm still pronouncing wrong, but at least there's something to hold on to in terms of, you know, letters. Anyway, in English, this title means mighty streams spewing venom, which sounds nice, and the compositions, which are 11, quote, act as markers of liminality and initiation, dividing zones of both geography and experience and bearing names that define their transformative characteristics. Lightning, mighty mumbler, resounding, hurrying, terrible, she-wolf, battle-through, cool, white, storm, and swallower. Mountains, rocks, rivers are forming, including the aforementioned Elivagar. Here we have some spatial soundscapes and other sounds woven into them, sometimes based on field recordings or more atmospheric synthpads, which, if they appear, are never in the foreground. In the review of the previous album, I wrote, again quote, "The artist skillfully paints the picture of the northern landscapes in times before the light." And I can also apply this to this release. This is the form of dark ambient I like very much. It is very dark, but it doesn't arouse more or less subcutaneous anxiety. On the contrary, it allows you to relax and somehow admire the creation of monumental landscapes in your imagination. Is this album better or worse than its predecessor, Var Alda? It's hard to say. It's really great, but both materials are like two chapters of the same story. And I'm not saying it's a problem. We just continue the same journey and can easily play these records one after another without any disturbance in the atmosphere. And think of the words I used while talking about this album. Epic, majestic, monumental. This is Gydja. No half-assed job. Once you start playing it, you'll be completely absorbed in the void. But what a pleasant journey it is. The third one is Talst, Celestial Displacement. Talst is the project of which I know nothing. The person behind the project is Rob Meldrum, who, according to the label, is now based in Chicago. But here it says that the album was recorded in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, which is quite interesting. I wonder if it's the only purely dark ambient album made in Mongolia. Probably not, it's a huge country, but I don't know any. If you know any ambient recorded in Mongolia or by a Mongolian artist, let me know, as I like these geographical curiosities in dark electronic music. Maybe Surfer Records has released something. They were specializing in experimental music from Asia and Africa. I need to check. Anyway, this is the design of the album. Digifile again, with nice graphics by Abi Halasdottir again. And if you wonder what kind of ambient Rob Meldrum is offering, just look at these pictures and the cover, and your doubts will be dispelled. Cosmic dark ambient, pulsars, quasars, emptiness, and solitude. But if you want to make any comparisons with, for example, Ethereum Nebula Glacial Mundi album, it's another cosmic dark ambient album which was out not so long ago on Winterlight, you may have a problem. These are different approaches to this kind of music. That Ethereum Nebula album was based on the mystery of space, on the exploration of a planet where no human had ever set foot. And about Celestial Displacement, the label says, dark ambient with space industrial overtones etched with things of horror. And there's actually a lot of horror here. But let's clarify. Cosmic horror can be one thing or another. As a movie fanatic, I will now use some movie connotations. The most famous space horror is, of course, Ridley Scott's Alien, a film that has always been, for me, a reflection of a story of a haunted house in a sci-fi setting, slowly building tension, mystery, evil, lurking in the dark, empty, gloomy corridors, etc. And no, Celestial Displacement is not that type of horror. Besides, we already have a wonderful dark ambient album based on Alien. I'm talking about sleep research facility Nostromo, and in my opinion it will be hard for anyone to make anything better. For me, this Talst album is closer to Paul Anderson's Event Horizon. Everything seems more tangible here, or video games like Dead Space, this kind of vibe. Even if you're in space, you feel oppressed, as if you're in a small room where the walls are getting closer and closer, and you hear screams from the distance and know that something absolutely horrifying is happening very close. I know it also sounds like Alien a bit, but these are these nuances. This one is very oppressive, with basically no place for a breath of relief. Well, maybe sometimes they occur, like in track 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Disengage. The drones are swirling, the suspense is growing, sometimes you hear some kind of working industrial machinery, and the attributes typical for horror soundtracks. It is indeed dark ambient in its full glory. Sorry, a break, my cat is in the litter. Okay, what I was saying, that it's dark ambient in its full glory, with perfect sound, sometimes maybe even too perfect, which is not always my cup of tea, because I'm a fan of these tiny imperfections and the lo-fi vibe in ambient music. But still, if you look for some creepy sci-fi atmospheres, check this one, Talst, Celestial Displacement. And it's difficult to pick which of these three I liked the most, but if I'd have to, I'd say it's Gydja. But don't ask why, because I wouldn't say it's better or worse than Antariksha or Celestial Displacement. Combining all the ingredients of each of this album, I think for my personal taste, Gydja is the most delicious. It's as simple as that. Okay, thanks for watching and see you soon.